and I was like, supernatural. Maybe there's like a, some sort of, and she's like, 70s. It's got to happen in the 70s. That's where it's happening. Figure it out.
So Jensen and Daniil, could you talk a little bit about the origin of this show and kind of bringing it to audiences and the kind of inspirations behind it?
Sure. We were coming to the end of Supernatural. It was spring of 2020, and then something happened to our world, and everything stopped. We put a pause on Supernatural. We had 2 episodes left before the end, and everybody went home. And so Daniil and I were there, and cooped up in our house and not knowing when this was going to end or what was going to happen, and we just started spitballing ideas about a whole variety of things. There was a series of events that kind of led us to talking about this particular idea, and when we were talking about it, we'd be like, that might be the way to keep this world moving forward, to keep this world alive. Because I don't think I was ever really ready to put Supernatural to rest forever. I think Jared and I were ready for a pause.
Yeah, when you said the end, you just meant the end of season 15.
Right, yeah. Not the end of the universe. No. So we felt like we started getting really excited about this, and then we spoke to somebody over at the studio, and we spoke to somebody over at the network, and there was a lot of big interest, and so then we were like, okay, well, we're not writers. We can't create this world, so we got to find somebody that knows that. And there was only one name that came up, and that was Robbie. So I called him, and he said, "Are you out of your minds? This will never work."
This is a terrible idea.
No.
No, I mean, I was shocked at first because I'd never met Jensen, and
You're like, who is this calling me?
I'm like, who's this?
It's in my rider that I don't meet writers.
Yeah. It's very complicated. No, I was really excited about it because it seemed like a real challenge. I mean, there were some obvious things that we would have to kind of figure out, but that's, I think, what Supernatural always did really well was it had a relationship both with the actors on the show and the audience that allowed us to kind of push the boundaries of it, and so we were pushing the boundaries from the beginning.
Amazing. And Megan Drake, what's it like to kind of enter this world that has such a huge fandom, is constantly in conversation with the audience, and has so much love for these characters, and to get to just expand them out and show this whole new world?
No, please, you first.
You do the cross mics, and then you can both.
So yeah, no, it's incredible. It's really cool to get to step into a pre-existing universe, because it's like we get to inherit a lot of these fans, which is really, really cool. But no, they've been incredibly supportive, and it's been such a blast.
It's been awesome because also when we film, when we film. It's when
Meg's going back. It's natural now.
Jensen's never doing an interview with us again.
No, I'm doing all of your interviews with you now.
Jensen is the interview dad. You have to
He's back there with the cue cards.
But it's also incredible motivation because the entire time we're filming, we're always thinking about the fans and hoping that they're loving what we're doing. So it's so incredible to have that in the back of our minds.
Yeah, it keeps you on your game because we have something to service. It's not just we can't slack off,
Yeah.
As I always say.
I do have to say, just kind of touching back to the origin of it, I do have this picture. I don't know if this is exactly how it happened, but we were talking. Daniil was probably in the kitchen doing something crazy and amazing like she usually does. And I was like, Supernatural, maybe there's like a, some sort of, and she's like, 70s. It's got to happen in the 70s. That's where it's happening. Figure it out. And I'm like, ooh, maybe the story mom dad. Yep, that's where it happens, and that's why it happens, and that's where you're gonna have your. And she's just, I think it was probably somebody.
Janis Joplin in a previous life.
There we go. That's yeah.
Yeah, baby, I can see channeling.
So when that idea kind of started percolating, she certainly took the wheel on the kind of the idea of when and where and what it would look like, and I was just like, yes, we should call Robbie, and so that's kind of how it all happened. But then these two hopped on, and it all started taking form, and it's been a really, really fun ride to be a part of.
Yeah, I was blown away by the first episode. It was just so much fun, and something I love to see was Meg, you really you are like the driving action force in this show. So could you two talk a little bit about that choice before Meg talks about actually taking it on?
I mean, we always knew that Mary was the badass, and she tucked that away, so to speak, in a certain part of the story. But the origin of that had to make sense, and so Robbie really kind of came up with a way to highlight that and to tell the story of why she is who she is, and why she can be an assassin when she needs to be.
Yeah, I just echoing that. One of the first conversations that we had was about, there's obviously parallels between Sam and Dean because that's their kids, and Mary felt very much like a Dean, and that was a really great starting point as we started developing it.
Meg, what was it like for you to take on a character and it's like, oh, you're a demon hunter, you're a total badass. Also, it's the 70s and you need to know how to fight.
She
But also,
actually
you're
hunts monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what we
Oh,
typecast.
that helps.
Yeah.
It's an authentic story, and also you're falling in love. So it's like it's a lot of different parts to this character.
I think that's the beautiful thing about Mary is that she's so closed off and has gone through so much in her life. And then kind of like through the show, there's little vulnerable parts, and I think that's why it's so magical. Is like John really helps her open up, and she's working with the team for the first time, and there's just so much. There's so many qualities to Mary. It's like very, very complex, and that's why it's so fun to play her. But yeah, I always say I feel like she's like Dean, but she's longing to be Sam because she just wants to get out. She wants to be vulnerable, but she can't. But she's trying. So yeah.
And Drake, we really get to see like a different side of John with this origin. So could you talk a little bit about bringing that kind of sweetness and like, oh my God, like kind of, but also having to be there in this space for the woman that you love?
Yeah, of course. No, I watched 12 plus seasons of Supernatural, and I really, really loved Jeffrey Dean Morgan's performance. And so in taking the role on, the one thing I knew I wasn't going to be able to do is live up to Jeffrey Dean's performance. So I didn't want to recreate anything. So I really wanted to figure out if that's where he ends, what's the opposite end of the spectrum, and where would be really interesting to play, just to show the biggest transition of character. So it's a little bit, John's a little bit less, a little bit more Sam than he is the badass Dean. And it's a fun place to play in, especially in contrast to Mary, who's so tactical. It's fun to have somebody who trips over their own feet. So yeah, that's
Or loses a shoe.
or loses a shoe entirely.
Yeah, it's a really lovely combination, and congratulations so much. I'm so excited for people to see it, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank you. Have a lovely day and a great con.